Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues from the embassies, and all friends from the international solidarity with Venezuela in Belgium. Thank you for being here in this first international press conference in Brussels to denounce the kidnapping of the Venezuelan diplomat Alex SAAB in the United States in June 2020. And what we consider right now are the threats for international law as a whole and for diplomacy in general. Today, in Florida, they will be starting the process of hearing for the accusations that fakely the United States made against our colleague Alex SAAB, in a process that is filled with illegality since his illegal detention in June 2020 and posterior transfer to the United States. A country which its unilateral coercive measures force our country to have a special envoy to buy food and to buy specific needs and to cover the needs of the people during the pandemic period. Kidnap, private from his rights and its immunities. Today, Alex SAAB represents the biggest threat and the most sensitive threat to international law and diplomacy as a whole. Today here, in the European capital, His Excellency Ambassador Jorge Valero, the head of the mission to the EU, and myself, Claudia Salerno, ambassador to the Kingdom of Belgium, we are going to raise our voice to denounce this fact. The hearing that right now is starting in the District Court of Miami, which actually is threatening the exercise of our profession and international law as a whole. Ambassador Valero will be given the word right now to detail the facts and to show you why we said here and now in the European capital that diplomacy is in danger. You have the floor, Mr. Valero.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, the evidentiary hearing begins before the court of the Southern District of Florida, related to the right to the diplomatic immunity of the Special Envoy of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. The hearing concludes on December 16th. His detention in a prison in Florida, USA, is part of the criminal policy that the United States government has been implementing through the imposition of cruel unilateral coercive measures, UCM, which have provoked the death of thousands of Venezuelans, causing an unprecedented drop of tax revenue and from the oil revenue. By contracting more than 99% of the public income, the Venezuelan state has been deprived of huge resources to meet the basic needs of the population, such as education, health, food, and public services, among others. Within the framework of these UCMs, Venezuelan companies and financial resources of the Venezuelan people has been kidnapped or stolen since they amount to millions of dollars and are mainly withheld in the United States. The special rapporteur, Alena Duhan, presented a report to the Human Rights Council held in Geneva from September 16 to October 11, 2021, where she concluded that, I quote, unilateral sanctions against Venezuela are politically motivated they violate the most fundamental human rights and violate international law. And why has the Venezuelan diplomat Alex SAAB been arrested? The reason is that he was carrying out humanitarian activities in the Islamic Republic of Iran to obtain necessary supplies such as food, gasoline, and medical supplies, which could allow Venezuela to face the threat of COVID-19 and let me to repeat. The reason is that he was carrying out humanitarian activities in the Islamic Republic of Iran to obtain necessary supplies such as food, gasoline, and medical supplies, which would allow Venezuela to face the threat of COVID-19 and the privation imposed on our people in light of the illegal U.S. government sanctions. Alex SAAB was arrested in 2020 at the Amilcar Cabral International Airport, Sal Island, Cape Verde, when the plane where we was traveling needed to be refueled. At the request of a jury assembled in the court of the Southern District of Florida, he was forcibly transferred to the U.S. prison. Since October 2021, he has been kidnapped. The Venezuelan diplomat's defense has presented to the South Florida court irrefutable evidence that show that he was illegally detained. The Trump government was aware of the diplomatic status of the Special Envoy. However, making use of its arbitrariness and blackmailing power, it made it to have Alex SAAB transferred from Cape Verde to the United States. During his detention in the Sal Island prison, he was subjected to cruel torture, cut off from his family and prohibiting him medical attention. In addition, he was impeded due process and the right to defense. The Trump government, in agreement with the Cape Verdean government, carried out a kidnapping operation against Alex SAAB in violation of due process without notifying his lawyers, this being a second kidnapping. It should be noted that on June 2021, the Geneva-based UN Human Rights Council guaranteed precautionary measures, requesting Cape Verde to refrain from extracting Alex SAAB to the U.S. while it decided on the merit of the matter. However, the Cape Verdean government did not abide by the decision. On June 2021, the UN Human Rights Council reminded Cape Verde of guaranteeing of precautionary measures in favor of Alex SAAB. Again, Cape Verde did not abide by the decision. On September 2021, the Special Rapporteur on the negative impact of unilateral coercive measures on the enjoyment of human rights, Elena Duhan, published a report expressing her concern about the United States request for the extradition of Ambassador Alex SAAB. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela sent a diplomatic protest to the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the permanent mission to the United States to the UN, New York. On October 2021, the Working Group of Arbitrary Detention, together with 4 special rapporteurs of the UN Human Rights Council, published an unprecedented letter that it was sent to the government of Cape Verde, in which they expressed their alarm over the fact of Alex SAAB at the hand of the Cape Verdean authorities, and they requested an explanation for Cape Verde for the serious event denounced. The government of President Nicolás Maduro has maintained a firm defense of the Venezuelan diplomat, considering that this case constitutes not only a flagrant violation of the international law, but also an aggression against the Venezuelan people as a whole, since it was benefiting from humanitarian efforts that Alex SAAB performed abroad. Alex SAAB is a special envoy and head of mission, and therefore a diplomatic agent under the 1961 Convention, and he is entitled to immunity as such. The catalogue of violation of international law in the case of Alex SAAB is abundant, revealing how the United States government, in complicity with Cape Verdean authorities, has violated, among others, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, the Convention Against the Torture and the Cruel, Inhuman, or Degrading Treatment of Punishment, Convention on Prevention and Punishment of Crimes Against Internationally Protected Persons. A reference should also be made to the Article 3 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which stated that, I quote, "No one may be subjected to torture, to the inhuman or degrading punishment or treatment." What Venezuelans defend with this case of diplomatic Alex SAAB is the full validity of international law. Any state should act outside of the right and violate it as frequently as the imperialist government of the United States does. It is more than evident that the Cape Verdean authorities likely succumbed to the petition of the Donald Trump government. If there is any transgressor of the right, is precisely the United States. We want to highlight that in Europe, there is an widespread assessment of respect of human rights. The European people is a lover of peace and seek to give precedence above all to the fundamental right of the human beings. That is why we are addressing him to raise awareness of the case of the diplomat Alex SAAB, who has suffering terribly and for serving the Venezuelan people. Venezuela shares the values of the European Union in general, and in particular, the protection and development of human rights as fundamental freedoms. We hope that any European diplomat will suffer the calamities that the Ambassador Alex SAAB is suffering today. We are waiting for the evaluation that the South Florida court will make in the coming days. Hopefully, the substantiated judicial argument presented by defense are accepted, and Alex SAAB can promptly return to the humanitarian work in favor of the Venezuelan people. The United States cannot ignore the immunity of Alex SAAB as a duly accredited Venezuelan diplomat on an official mission. By detaining and imprisoning him, the United States has violated his diplomatic immunity and flouted its own international legal obligations, including endangering hundreds of its own diplomats. Thank you very much indeed.
We are free to take questions from the floor.
Si me permiten, me gustaría hacer una pregunta en español, si no hay objeciones. Quería conocer de ustedes qué ¿qué esperan o qué sugieren que la Unión Europea pueda hacer en este caso? Gracias.
Como dije de manera brevemente, este es un caso que puede convertirse en una referencia internacional del derecho internacional, porque en lo adelante cualquier gobierno de cualquier país podría violar todas las normativas internacionales que están contenidas en los derechos que otorgan inmunidades diplomáticas a los diplomáticos en ejercicio. De modo que nosotros esperamos que los órganos especializados de la Unión Europea examinen este caso por las implicaciones futuras que pueda tener, en donde no solamente podrían ponerse en riesgo los diplomáticos europeos, sino los diplomáticos de cualquier país.
Hello, my name is Eduardo Dacha Ribeiro. I'm independent journalist based here in Brussels. I'm original from Cabo Verde. So I've been following this case since the beginning. Of course, let me tell you that we all know that there is some pressure from the United States. But following this case in Cabo Verde, until I know, the case has been judged. And today, in the United States, of course, the context, the environment changed. I think that thanks to the geopolitical moment, question of gas, question of Ukraine and so on, Iran, I hear that there is a kind of trade-off among United States and Venezuela. You confirm or not?
What we can confirm is that Alex SAAB is a special envoy of the government, that as such, he privileged from all its rights and immunities as a diplomatic envoy and as a head of mission of the mission that he was carrying. We know also that the ways in which, and there were also pronunciations in the Cabo Verde jurisdictions, calling for no responding positively to the demands illegally made by the United States. So that is why what we can confirm is, first, Alex SAAB is a diplomat that has been kidnapped, and the hearings that are occurring now in Miami, Florida, starting from today, are going to be a precedent that is going to be extremely dangerous for international law, for the international community, and for the free exercise of a diplomatic mission. So we consider that this is a case that is putting at risk the exercise of diplomacy at large for the whole world and for the international community as a whole. So regardless of the points that anyone could have about the mission itself, the missions are protected by law and by international law, and why by the meanings and the ways that the international civilized community decided to protect the exercise of diplomacy. If we forget the rights that actually hold diplomacy, we are moving to a very dangerous world.
Hello, I'm Hashimi from Euromag and ICP24. I'm also a member of Amnesty International, and I was requesting some information. 2 days ago, it was the day after International Human Rights, and usually Amnesty is also following. But I didn't find any case about in the website. Did you have some contact with the international ONGs who fight for the human rights? because usually they are really very aware what's happened and very quick response. Or did you have any denied about them? Thank you.
The Alex SAAB case is being managed by a foundation that is called freealexsaab.org. And they have a webpage in which you can find all the contacts and the linkages that they have been doing with the international community. But just to mention the kind of solidarity that we have received, recently Roger Waters, that is a very known persona for the a defender for human rights at large, he actually framed and characterized the case of Alex SAAB as putting almost in the same footage as Assange's case of kidnapping and being transferred by force to be held in a court, in a district court that is going to try to define if you are a diplomat or not. But I don't know if we can, podemos volver a la lámina de Miami. We brought the case and actually the conclusions that they made in the last hearing. And I think the same wordings from the court speak largely about how bad this is going. I want to make you get the point to that the same court said that they are poorly situated to decide the mixed question of fact and law regarding if you are a diplomat or no. So they decided that for you to be a diplomat is a case of both facts and law. So maybe you have credentials, but someone doesn't like it, and then you are not going to be a diplomat. So that is what it is at stake, and it's not us saying it. It's a court in Miami that is framing what it is. The heaviness of the Vienna Convention is going to be undermined by a district court in the south of Florida. And then they continue saying, since consideration of the merits of the claim that he is or not, it is at a minimum a mixed question of law and fact, turning in part on undeveloped facts. So you are being judged for things that did not happen as yet. And this is not me saying it. It's the court that is framing the case in such a manner that you are being judged for a diplomat that did not achieve his mission because he was kidnapped. So undeveloped facts, an undeveloped event. It would be inappropriate for us, thank God they realized that, to rule on it in its first instance. And this it comes the pearl. We demand the case, we remand the case to the district court to consider in the first instance whether SAAB Moran is a foreign diplomat and immune from persecution. And this is the wording of the court in Miami. Imagine is a diplomat from anywhere, Germany, France, UK, would be held by the Americans' tribunals, and a district court is going to define if you are a diplomat or not, because it's an issue of undeveloped facts and a mixed question of fact and law. So that is the case. Yes, we are more than happy to have all the support in the international community. As the purpose of this conference actually is to wake up the international community and wake up the European arena also to the fact that this is something that at a base should get together everybody that loves international law and that is respectful of the laws to be comply and respect.
¿Alguna otra pregunta? Another question?
En castellano o en inglés. En español, vale. Bueno, para tenerlo, perdón, es que ha sido un poco imprevisto toda la agenda del día, discúlpeme. Sí. En primer lugar, quisiera saber qué tipo de contacto mantienen con las instituciones europeas al respecto, por este caso, y qué les han pedido y cuál ha sido su respuesta.
Mañana, en la mañana tenemos una entrevista con un alto funcionario de la Unión Europea, una de las máximas autoridades, y le haremos referencia a este caso.
Embajador, ¿puede cambiar de micrófono? Gracias.
Que mañana tendremos una entrevista con un alto funcionario de la Unión Europea, a quien realizamos una visita de cortesía, porque como ustedes sabrán, estamos recién llegados acá, a Bruselas, y esta es la primera alta autoridad con la cual nos vamos a entrevistar, y en esa conversación haremos referencia a este caso para que la Unión Europea lo tenga en cuenta.
Pourrais-je me permettre en français? Oui, parce qu'en fait, d'Algérie, nous suivons aussi ce cas et nous aurions voulu avoir donc la même question. Donc, vous avez présenté une doléance au sein de l'Union européenne. Avez-vous eu des noms, par exemple comme monsieur le commissaire Didier Reynders ou Madame Ursula ou alors Madame Maria Arena qui s'occupe aussi des droits de l'homme au sein du Parlement européen? Et réexpliquez-nous si c'est possible, un petit peu en résumé, en français pour notre audience. Merci.
Bueno, como ya informamos, estamos recién llegados acá a la ciudad.
On est récemment arrivé à la ville.
Y mañana es la primera entrevista oficial que tenemos con un alto funcionario de la Unión Europea. Tenemos apenas 15 días de haber arribado formalmente a la ciudad. Y en los próximos tiempos, obviamente, sostendremos reuniones con las altas autoridades de la Unión Europea.
Ah, ok. Ça fait que 15 jours qu'on est arrivé à l'Union européenne pour reprendre le rôle en tant que nouveau chef de mission auprès de l'Union européenne. Et à partir de demain, ils commenceront à tenir des entretiens avec l'Union européenne et les institutions européennes sur ce sujet. Et bien sûr, ils vont essayer d'ici en avant de maintenir le sujet en tant que partie de l'agenda des conversations avec l'Union européenne.
Ya he dicho que tenemos apenas 15 días de haber arribado a la ciudad. Y tenemos en agenda, por supuesto, las máximas autoridades, pero como ustedes saben, uno solicita las entrevistas y las autoridades son las que definen en qué momento nos reciben. Y es obvio que una alta autoridad no recibe a un embajador de un día para otro, sino que esa alta autoridad tiene una agenda pautada que nosotros respetamos.
Comme je viens de dire, il y a que 15 jours qu'on est arrivé pour prendre la fonction. On a fait plusieurs demandes d'entretien avec des autres autorités et ça va mais ils ne répondent forcément pas de jour au lendemain. Donc on va attendre d'ici les semaines prochaines d'établir un agenda des contacts pour pouvoir engager et continuer à traiter le sujet au plus haut niveau. Donc ils ont demandé des réunions avec tout le monde. Otra pregunta. En portugués.
Sorry. So, of course, you are a diplomat. I don't know. Yeah, this is your job. Which is the relationship you know, in this case, SAAB case, which the internal political situation in Venezuela. I'm talking about, of course, the meeting with the opposition, and coming to this, I'm quite sure that maybe the only role that the European Union can play is making a pressure in order to support the opposition, because European Union cannot really make a pressure to United States of America. This is a fact, of course. I'm not talking about the laws, the rule of law. I'm talking about facts. And of course, this is the problem today.
Of course, at the heart of the issue, it is a political issue. It's a political issue that started when the United States took the decision of putting unilateral coercive measures on a country, a sovereign country, to force them to change the regime, the government. And in that sense, it is just but the fact that they coerce our country, that we were forced to embed a person of immunities, diplomatic immunities, to go to buy food and to buy essential equipments for resolving the COVID situation from 2018. We actually were aware that the sanctions in the type that they were framed put anyone who was doing anything for what they call the Venezuelan government, that they could be subjects to threats and then to incarceration, as we see. The only thing that he was doing was traveling to Iran, and he was in need to stop to refuel his plane in Cabo Verde, and he was forcibly and illegally detained there on the basis of a request from the United States. Of course, it's a political case. He is a political prisoner from the United States and in the United States. And he's a political prisoner that has diplomatic immunities, which is extremely dangerous as I said, as a precedent for the overall international community. It is a political case that now is being dealt with in a district court, so became a legal case for the United States. But for us, it's a case of human rights. He was privated to see his family. Since his detention, more than 900 days, without seeing no one, not even his law defenders. He had to meet them in the presence of others. He has been submitted to tortures to be able to work and to provide information about what he was doing. And the point is, he was buying food and medical supplies for the country. That's his only fact, the only thing that he did. And he was doing it for a government that the Trump's government didn't like it. And he didn't recognize as such, as they said. Things have moved on. And Alex SAAB, as you know, he was, as you mentioned correctly, he was being put as part of the Venezuelan delegation, government delegation in the dialogues, in the political dialogues for reconciliation of the country. With his detention, the political dialogue stopped as the request of the government of Venezuela, asking for the United States to liberate and to free Alex SAAB. As he was not the case, and the hearings are starting today, as we speak, in Miami, at 8 o'clock in the morning. As we speak, the hearings are starting in Miami. with large protests from the civil society in the United States that are supporting Alex SAAB's case. As I show in the second frame, and you can get back, en la segunda. This is the United Nations building, and this happened on Saturday, this week. And they put the sign there, and this is North American civil society that is getting together, Code Pink and other people there for what it is, the linkages. And I think International Amnesty was there as well. And they projected the same sign in the facade of the American mission to the UN. Because we already have pronunciations from the human rights representatives, from the Council. And they have been disregarded. So this is a case in which a country decides to have a political revenge in a diplomat, and the international community cannot stay quiet. This is beyond a political side in which you are. This is what is right and what is wrong, and what is happening with him, with the fact that he hasn't been able to see his family. I mean, this is a case of human rights. Clearly violation of all what it is correct in international law. And this is a human being. And his rights needs to be protected, both his human rights and his diplomatic rights. So it is, of course, a political, there is a political content in the persecution of his duties. Yes, of course. And that is what it is even more dangerous, because we protect diplomacy to allow others to do what it is needed to be in peace. And we cannot threat the exercise of those that are peace builders and peacemakers, which is what it is diplomacy for. Otherwise, we are attacking what it is at the heart of the civil society and the civilized community that we built upon and we are growing in, and we believe strongly in that. So yes, you asked me the relationships. He is our colleague, he is our friend, and he is our co-worker, and we will be defending him in this arena as well. Thank you very much, and we are going to be able in the embassy as well as in the Venezuelan mission to the EU to respond to any press request later on, because the case is starting today and we are going to be updating from now on. Thank you.